Coach Mike Mularkey, former Jags coach, and you know the resume, and from Buffalo to Tennessee, and now retired. How is retirement going? Boy, you must be so glad you're not on a sideline in a season like this.
Every Sunday I see something somewhere that I say to myself, I'm glad I am happily retired. So I'm in a hotel room in St. Augustine. My wife surprised me for my birthday today brought me down here for the night, and you can't do that if you're not happily retired and away from everything like that.
Good for you, by the way. And
Coach.
Happy birthday to Mike Mularkey, and 63 years young. You're looking good.
Hey, I feel good. I do. I'm not letting the old man in, I promise you.
Yeah, good. Nice. Yeah, I ran into you a few weeks back. You're in very good shape still. The one thing that you've been able to do in retirement, outside of family, because family's the easy answer, and you got to go there, right? You got to say it. I mean, you got kids and grandkids and wife and everything else. I know that. But one thing you've been able to do that you just couldn't do when you were coaching and so consumed by the NFL.
Traveling much more, trying to play golf more, and trying to fish more. The things I had planned on doing, I'm actually doing. So I have not been bored a day, I can promise you. But I still follow, the league. Obviously, my son's involved. I won't mention with which team he is involved. It's probably not a good week to.
Yeah, we know. No, because I was going to ask you about that. I mean, when you're let's look at it from Detroit's point of view for a second. Just an absolute butt whooping. And you're a physical guy. You preach physical play. When you look at what they did and what they're doing, and obviously your son's in the organization and what they've been able to accomplish, and I'd love to know the secret sauce because we're trying to figure it out here. But if you just look at that football game, what we say from the outside, coaches, that wasn't an NFL game. Like that does not happen in the NFL. Like that should not happen in the NFL. The way Montgomery has 8 yards before he even gets breathed on.
I thought it looked like a 7-on-7 segment.
It did.
And so on air.
But how amazingly good is that for the Lions to feel that way? I mean, it's almost like a perfect football game, isn't it?
They're playing the coach's mentality. I mean, that's Dan Campbell. That's how Dan Campbell played when he played. I'd like to think I played the same way. I mean, Dan and I are very similar. He came up to me back in 19 when I was coaching tight ends. He was coaching tight ends in New Orleans and said, I've always liked the way you've coached, whether it's been coaching tight ends or a coordinator or a head coach. Your guys, you're always physical. And, I went up to a practice at camp this year, and I said, I don't know if you remember this. He goes, I know exactly what you're going to tell me. I know. I said, well, you have got it, and they're drinking the Kool-Aid because that's the way they play. They believe in what he's preaching, and the coordinator's got to, Ben Johnson does a great job, but he's got to believe in the same thing, and he does. He likes running the football. He likes having some fun with some trick plays. He didn't even have to use any this past week, which is surprising. But he's got the mentality of the head coach, and if you don't have that, it's hard to have guys play like that.
Coach, when we talk about the mentality of a head coach, let's flip things around here in Jacksonville then. I remember, back when you coached us 2012, right? And obviously it wasn't a great season, but I remember when New England came to town, we almost seemed to get up extra for that one because we knew the playoffs weren't going to be within reach. I think we won 2 games up into that New England Patriots game, but it was like, this is the talk of the NFL. Like, it's Tom Brady, it's the Patriots. Like, we want to show out at home. And I almost got the same vibe. Like, this is the Lions. Like, yeah, you're probably going to go to the playoffs this year, Jacksonville Jaguars, but guess what? You're taking on a team that everyone's talking about right now. I think that Patriots game, we might have lost. I think it was a close game. We might have lost like 7 or 8, whatever the case may be, maybe even 6. But
we had them beat. I don't know if you remember that.
I do. Yeah. It should have been our win. Tom Brady didn't have the best game and everything, and unfortunately, we lost it at the end. But then you see 52-6, and you see a defense in Jacksonville that couldn't stop anything. You were essentially at the mercy of Dan Campbell and those Lions. Like, what does it say about your team, Coach, when that game looks like that against? I know you're not going to the playoffs, but you're playing against a team that everyone's talking about.
Well, I go back to Dan again, but if you look at look at his staff. Okay, the defensive coordinator played in the NFL. The O-line coach, Hank Fraley. I had a chance to coach Hank Fraley in Pittsburgh. Hank loves beating the tar out of you. Okay, I'm not. And again, this is nothing second guess. I think Doug's an excellent football coach, but one is an ex tight end, want to pummel you, and then one head coach is a quarterback coach. If you play quarterback in the league, and I just there's two different mentalities. I think your players play to your personality, and I just look across the league when it comes to guys that have played in the trenches, some of their success and some guys that haven't. I mean, I have a hard time coach with Jason Garrett. He was my quarterback coach with the Dolphins when I was down there as a coordinator. I had a hard time picturing him up in front of an NFL team trying to motivate them to try to kick somebody's rear end in for 60 minutes. It's just, it's got to be who you are. And I think players play to that mentality. I mean, that you see it around the league, and you see even certain positions of guys that have been in the trenches. Their guys play that style of football. So, that's just my belief. I think there's a different mentality when it comes to trying to get a team to motivate. And I'm me, Austen, physical over finesse every day of the week is going to have a good chance to win.
Coach, obviously we've been hearing Ben Johnson, a name being thrown around in a lot of head coaching circles. A lot of teams in need will probably be pursuing Ben Johnson. And this is a guy who he has the X's and O's part down, right? But I think a question that I have, say Jacksonville's interested in him, right? Say Doug Peterson's gone, say they're looking to try to rebuild the culture and really tear it down from the studs and build back up. Do you think the resume of Ben Johnson, being this X's and O's guy, has the capability to take a team like the Jaguars, who, let's be honest, man, they're in the dumps right now, and try to rise them back up and create that culture? Or does Ben Johnson need a team kind of like Andy Reid had, where he goes to Kansas City, all the pieces were kind of in place, you drafted here, you drafted there, but you had a lot of great players already in peace in Kansas City, and all you got to do is just kind of bring your prowess of X's and O's?
I think he's a tremendous coordinator. His play calling is some of the best I've ever seen. Either situation, the thing they did in Detroit, if you watch how Detroit was built, I mean, Brad Holmes has done a great job of putting the pieces together there to help Dan Campbell. And the pieces are what Dan and that staff believe in. So you got to have that ability, and you got to have the patience. If you look at Dan's first year, you're not real excited with the direction they're going, but he didn't change his philosophy. He didn't change his message, and they got players that fit the system. And you see what can happen a couple of years later after doing that. You just got to, if you could have some patience. It's tough to build a roster in a year and or put a team together in a year. Unfortunately, I experienced that. But if you put Ben Johnson with a team that's got some players on it, already, the sky is the limit. He gets it. When I was up at the camp, I didn't know if he knew who I was. It was after practice. All the players and coaches were around their families, and I walked over to him and I didn't introduce myself to him, and I said, "Hey, I just enjoy watching your play call, and I think it's very well planned and thought out. Every snap you're always a play ahead." And he's looked at me and he goes, I appreciate that. If I can just get my guys to play at the level you always got your guys to play at. I'm like, oh, wait, I think he maybe does know who I am. So I know he knows that mentality to go with what, his ability to call plays. He's very good. I mean, really good. And he likes to have fun with some of you look at some of the trick plays, gadget plays, or I call them special plays. They're well thought out, and they work extremely well.
Yeah, they've got a nice balance of power and also explosiveness. I mean, that's what they've built. They've got a ton of speed. They can beat you in a bunch of ways. They can play different varieties of ball. They've got the quarterback playing well. Listen, we all try to guess this, Coach, of why it's gone wrong. I mean, this is unfathomable, quite frankly, that this football team's 2-9 and you lose the way you did based on their roster and kind of the feel. And quite frankly, Doug, I think what you said, I think Doug's a good football coach. I think he knows how to win games. And we saw it here for a couple of years. This is stunning. But from your view, And we've all guessed and tried to figure it out. What do you think has gone wrong? It's never one thing, and I get that. But was the roster not as good as we thought? Are they not getting enough out of it? Is the quarterback not as good as we think? I mean, where do you fall? Where do you fall the most when something like this goes awry in a league that's pretty tight? I get that, right? I mean, the margins are slim outside of the Detroit and maybe Buffalo game this year.
I don't know if anybody can just pinpoint one specific thing. I know it always starts at the top. That's with ownership. I've been fortunate to be around the Rooney family for 11 years and some of these other owners. I think that's a big part of it. I caught the tail end of your having a football guy like Spielman in there. You did have a football guy in there with Tom Coughlin, probably the best thing Shaw's ever done, and probably firing him is probably the worst thing they've ever done because he is a football guy. Is he tough? Is he, hard on today's players? Maybe that's what they need. I don't know. I know they went to the AFC Championship game when Tom Coughlin was hired there, and they haven't done much since. I think a Spielman type. He's quietly like a shadow when I was there at training camp this year, and he's there to just overlook everything and has input on anything that he sees. And maybe that's what's needed is just a true football guy that's not involved with salary caps and designing plays, just somebody that can oversee the whole thing. And I thought it was Tom Coughlin.
Yeah, well, and you the reason I wrote an article yesterday, we've talked about this a bunch for the last year, Coach, just to catch you up on it. It's like my belief is in your league, in the NFL, listen, these are high-paying jobs. There's a lot of ego. There's also when the hits the fan like it is right now, you get a lot of finger pointing and trying to protect these jobs. And so my point with the Spielman stuff, or if you have somebody in there looking out for the organization that doesn't need to do that, that's where I think that comes in, because there's no doubt there's finger pointing going on right now. There has to be inside those walls. You know what happens. And I guess that's my overarching problem. Is somebody going to relay to Shad what exactly is going on, or protect the organization, talk to the fans, just have the back of the organization, this city, this town, what it is, because this is a different market too. So I guess that's my point, and it's interesting to hear you say that. I think it's fair to say Tom might not have been the right time and place given today's player versus, at least sustaining it, right? But he certainly made an impact in year number one before it started to go the other way. Are you surprised coming off this game and at 2-9 that nobody got even fired? That's the way the league works?
Unfortunately, I was in this position in 2017 with the Titans. We I don't know if you remember this, we had to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars the last game of the year to make the playoffs. And that whole week was about me getting fired if we don't beat the Jags. And, people forget 2 years earlier, we had the first pick of the draft in 2016, and here we are on the verge of going to the playoffs. And, there was no support to say if I don't win the game, I'm still the head coach moving forward, because we had back-to-back winning seasons after, being the worst team in the NFL for 2 years in a row. And when there was no support, that was hard on not just me, our staff and the team. It was really hard on my family. And as you saw today, Jerry has already said Mike McCarthy is our coach to finish out this league, or finish out this season. And Doug's just sitting there. He has no idea what's going on. Players are seeing that.
Yeah.
So
you think they should just make a statement one way or another with all the noise?
Make a statement. Yeah, say it. Just give the team, let everybody know, because there's a lot of unfortunately we had to deal with it. And we did beat the Jaguars, but the firing me didn't calm down. It actually got twice as bad as it did when we went to the playoffs, when we had to beat the Chiefs in Kansas City, which we did. But the weeks of that was very hard on our football. You're talking about distractions, and like you said, questioning of what's happening. Really hard on our staff. They all got families as well. And it came down to, we went to New England, this eventual Super Bowl winner, the next week, and we lost and I got fired after that. So after taking a team to the playoffs and winning for the first time in 14 years. So this league nothing surprises me. Every week I told you Sundays there's something that shows up that I'm thankful I'm not in it anymore.
You by the way you did have very unique situations, in all your stops, didn't you?
The best thing I did there at the end, which I can now talk about, was when I got called in that Monday morning after the New England game. I knew they were going to fire me. So Sunday night, I called Ian Rappaport and I said, "Hey, I don't know if you know this, but I'm going to break it to you. But I'm getting a new contract in the morning." And he reported it was all over the country. I was getting a contract in the morning, knowing that I was going to get fired. But I just wanted to see the faces on the owner and the GM who was out to get me. And I'm pretty sure I got him for a minute or two.
That's amazing.
That is awesome.
When I walked in the next morning, there wasn't a whole lot of conversation. It was like, "You're done."
Did your agent do that, or did you do that just on your own?
I had a standing policy with my assistants. If they talked to any of these guys, the Rappaports and those guys behind the scenes without going through the media director, I would fire them. I didn't want any sources coming out of our locker room, and I totally broke the rule. I called my agent and I said, "Hey, tell them this," knowing what really was about to happen.
Hey, so if you don't mind, indulge us for a minute. How were you stunned when you got let go in Jacksonville after 1 year? I know you didn't think necessarily it was fair and everything else after just one season, but was that surprising? Or because we've actually brought you and Gene up a little bit in this scenario, if I'm being honest with you, that this year we think one of the things that Schott is going to move on is that he got up in front of the team before camp and said this is the best football team that he's had. And he was probably told that by GM Trent Baalke. And we kind of feel like back in 2012, Gene Smith said something similar, and I'm not sure if you did or Gene did or whoever, that you guys had a team that could compete for the playoffs, and you ended up obviously 2-14. So are there some parallels there when you say something to Schott like that and you kind of overpromise and underdeliver, that he doesn't like that?
No, I thought we could be competitive, which I thought we were. I really, I think I've told you this, guys, on the last show, twice that year, including the last game of the year when we're 2-13. I had an official approach me on the sideline and say, "Hey, I've never seen a team that plays with this intensity and energy for the position they're in." I said, "They have played like this every game of the year. That's why we've had chances to win more than we've won, but at least we had chances." So, you just need more than one year. And I don't know if I told him I thought we could be competitive, much more competitive than we were, obviously. But no, I didn't think after 1 year, but it's a brand new ownership. Schott had just bought the team literally the same week he interviewed me. When he interviewed me, he asked me if players played, both ways. And that's when I thought, well, this is going to be an interesting job here in Jacksonville. But, I wanted to take that team over and hopefully make a difference. But unfortunately, I didn't.
What? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask, Coach, when you have a game like the Lions that just pounced the Jaguars for 52-6, do you look at the film? Do you bring the team in and go, "Hey guys, we need to get better here. Here's the mistakes," or do you just go, "That's not who we are"? You burn the film and you're on to the next one. You enjoy the bye week. How would you approach that as a coach?
We'd watch that tape. I promise you.
Yeah.
You know that, Austen.
Yeah, I know for sure.
They did too.
Yeah,
Doug told us yesterday that they did watch a tape.
Yeah. And and you got to watch yourself. And because all the pressure is on Doug and Trent Baalke right now, but players got to realize too that they're being evaluated each and every play by every other team. There's in-house scouts that look at those games, and when they're really being evaluated, if something happened to Doug and a new coach had to come in, I know as a new head coach, I would go in. I would watch the last half of the season, at least the last 6 games, and I'd watch players to see if there was any give up in them, because I wanted to know before I got in front of them, who I was dealing with. So they're being evaluated probably more than they'll ever realize right now to see how they're playing.
We're going to let you go in a minute so you can enjoy your birthday. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Mike Mularkey, former Jags head coach, Titans, Bills, of course, long career between college, NFL, more than 30 years now, retired, and hanging out with us on his birthday, which is nice of him to do down there in St. Augustine. What do you believe in firing people middle of the year? Because I don't think a lot of the owners do. Like, does it accomplish anything? And if not, what should we expect the last 6 games out of this Jags team? Do you think they're going to get off the mat? Because if it looks like that again, I don't want to watch it.
I think somebody needs to step up and support that we're moving forward with Doug. I mean, I've been an interim head coach. We fired, Coach Wisenhunt in Tennessee. I had to take over in the middle of the season. And you can't change anything. Okay, I don't know what other than preach your philosophy, because players aren't changing. You can't change the coaching staff, can't change the facility, can't change the schemes in the middle of the season. Really difficult to take over and think you're going to, succeed just because your philosophy may be different than the previous head coach. So I don't understand the firings in the middle of the seasons, and some as early as they've been this year. But that's just my feelings on it.
Yeah, it's and I think your feelings are echoed. We agree. Saleh got fired way too early. Yeah. They would be way better off if they had Robert Saleh. Now, I will say this: Dennis Allen got fired, and they're 2-0 since. I don't know if that really means a whole lot or not, but it's a small sample. But I do know that's kind of the tone of management. Is like, does it really do anything long term? And you've got the feeling now that Doug's going to get a chance to ride this thing out, see if they can win some football games. It's hard to predict that they will, coming off that performance against the Detroit Lions. One last one to end it. Would you play Trevor Lawrence if he's healthy now that the season is kind of shot?
Absolutely. He needs as many snaps as he can get. So I know it's his non-throwing shoulder. Look, you got nothing to lose right now. You need that guy to have some more experience personally.
Do you think?
Yes, I would.
Do you think he's been like not good? Good? Like, where
I think he's been very consistently inconsistent.
Yeah.
So he gives you kind of hope that, hey, that's in there, and then at the end, then it's kind of like, got to get more of it.
Yeah. I told you I last time we spoke, I was blessed to be with Matt Ryan for his first 4 years. And I just, what I saw in Matt, as far as your team having the chance to win, no matter what score was at any point in the game, and the players believing they had a chance. I don't know if I don't sense that when I watch games, that's the feeling on that team.
We'll have to ask him one more question then, Brent. Coach, how do you feel about the whole EPA, like all the analytical stuff? Because it drives me crazy, but I'm a little more old school when it comes to like, what do your eyes tell you, as opposed to what some stats could say. But like, obviously, I think the EPA is kind of a newer stat, but do you buy into all that stuff, or is it more of you got to pass the eye test?
I think it's information overload. I mean, I used to, I hadn't really been involved with that till, Tony Khan came into the world in 12 with me, and I would get stacks and stacks of information that, and again, I'm anal that I'm worried about if I don't look at it, I'm missing something that's going to help us win. But there are certain times and places of when you need those and don't. And I think even Dan Campbell is, a great example of that, of some of the decisions he made in the championship game are different to me than they would be during the regular season, because regular season, it can cost you a game, but it'll cost you, a playoff loss if you overthink it too much. So I don't know. I'm old school, so I was around the league for a long time without all that and did okay.
We appreciate the stories and some of the insight, Coach. Beautiful day down in St. Augustine, so go enjoy it, and happy birthday once again.
Yeah, thanks a lot, fellas. Appreciate you letting me come on. Good luck with everything there.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.